the jibber jabber. Don't be babbling like a fool. Say what you got to say. That's all. Then shut your dang pie hole.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Free for All Friday, and it is now, it is time. It has been one heck of a long week, has it not? And I've got to tell you folks, the product, the government product we live under is built on a foundation of lies. And isn't the bad guy himself, isn't the big one the father of lies? Oh, I think he is. It is incredible, folks. Now, this particular episode, I want to talk about a few topics, and you guys also. In fact, it's Free for All Friday. I think Jolene and me, we can kind of intersperse, do some subjects by me, some subjects by you. But I am really, really, really pissed off at this disinformation governance board. And in fact, I want to start with a story about it. Jen Psaki early today, refused to comment on the leader, the head of, and she's none other than a far left activist, a super activist, folks. Now, it's incredible. We have a ministry of truth, right? Now, key to Orwell, George Orwell's 1984, the evil regime in his dystopian nightmare of a novel, is this ministry of truth, the controlling of speech, which limits the mind's ability to consider ideas and form conclusions. In other words, people cannot think for themselves if there's a ministry of truth, if they cannot gather information and share ideas, which is precisely what you and I do here. This is the war on our level, folks, being able to think, say what you want, talk, share, without the ministry of truth getting in the way. And since we're so good at sharing and talking on social media, they have poured their energy in. It started with Wikipedia years ago, right? Coming down on, well, these other ideas and conspiracy theories. They did all of that, right? And then we ended up with social media deciding to censor us and then decide what is and isn't the truth. It's unbelievable, folks. This is precisely what this new disinformation governance board is all about. It is about using government authority to determine what you hear and what you think. We need to oppose this now, folks. Oppose it forever, or we will now and forever be attacked even more using their woke, CRT, perverted Great Reset garbage until we are, as a people, reduced to absolute slaves. Peasants, peons. This is what they're up to, folks. It is absolutely what they want to see. Now, I need to go on with this a little bit more. This is turning into a huge, huge, huge battle. Biden's new disinfo queen, right? This disinformation bureaucracy biatch. Her name is Nina Jankowicz. And she is all over social media, folks. In fact, she's got a couple of videos out. Should be on libs of TikTok, right? Nina Jankowicz is a hardcore Democrat partisan of never Trump, anti-America horror quality. And she will lead this new disinformation bureaucracy, right? She's going to lead it, right? Nina Jankowicz, head of the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, new Disinfo Governance Board, is a supporter and believer of the Steele dossier. That's right, the discredited Steele dossier. Is she an expert if she believes that garbage? right? And she helped dismiss Hunter Biden's laptop in 2020, saying it was saying, quote, we should view it as a Trump campaign product. Really? So facts of criminal misconduct are a campaign product, huh? Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a campaign product. I've got a campaign against the Jim Jones juice, and I want to show you guys I am going to give myself a shot of this. Been a long time since the cerveza inoculation has made an appearance on the Prepared Mind channel. Woo! I tell you what. Let's keep going with this topic. I want to keep driving these nails home. This disinformation bureaucracy is a horror story. Now, believe it or not, Jen Psaki changed her mind later in the day and told us she knows who this Nina Jankowski person is, right? And says, quote, she's an expert in online disinformation. She's an expert, folks. Last time we heard someone was an expert, it was a very short little man who was responsible for a great deal of damage. So Jen Psaki defended the Marxist lunatic, is how I would describe her, who's going to lead Biden's Ministry of Truth. She sang a song, and I understand having fun and singing songs, but she basically sang a song, Who Do I Screw to Get to the Top? And she also sang a song talking about information and lies. She's an incredible piece of work. Just absolutely a nut, right? She's a complete partisan screwball nutters psycho, folks. She basically tells us who she is by singing about her politics and her morality. Right? Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes and everything else. But when you're at that level and put it that high, shouldn't they have some sort of ethics and morality? Unbelievable, folks. Who does she screw to enhance her career? That's who this chick is. So I say you must email, folks. This is a clarion call right now. You must email, text, comment, call your congressmen and your senators now and next week until this disinformation bureaucracy under the Department of Homeland Security is completely frickin' scrapped. The White House is going to use this weekend to spread lies and sell this monstrosity as needed. Oh my God, without it, that disinformation is going to destroy our country. So we need to call it out immediately and immediately fight back. Now, the good news in this is there is opposition to it already. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican. Okay. He, this ministry of truth that they come up with, this disinformation bureaucracy, just smells like Orwell's 1984. And Josh Hawley wrote to the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas being the same jackass that lied and said that the border issue is taken care of. He said, I confess, this is what Senator Hawley said, I at first thought this announcement was satire. No, Senator Hawley, this show is satire. This absolute lunatic and the disinformation bureaucracy, that is something that they're going to try and make real. Hawley continued and said, quote, surely no American administration would ever use the power of government to sit in judgment on the First Amendment speech of its own citizens. Sadly, he added, I was mistaken. Rather than protecting our border or the American homeland, you have chosen to make policing American speech your priority. This new board is almost certainly unconstitutional and should be dissolved immediately. It can only be assumed that the sole purpose of this new disinformation governance board will be to marshal the power of the federal government to censor conservative and dissenting speech. This is dangerous and un-American. Oh yeah, folks. The Committee on Un-American Activities, the subject of my prior discussion. These people now want a ministry of truth, a ministry of propaganda, a ministry of disinformation. Oh, did you say shit has hit the fan? With everything else you and I are dealing with, we're going to have to deal with this now. We don't just have to deal with jackass Karens at the supermarket and in traffic. No, you don't just have to deal with a bunch of frickin' know-it-alls at the school board or city hall or your local bureaucrats. We now have this to deal with, folks. On top of the social media, on top of political correctness, on top of peer pressure from coworkers and families, there is now this garbage telling you what you have to believe. And they said, oh, it's a slippery slope argument to say political correctness is wrong. Look at where political correctness has gotten us, folks, in 30 years. We now have a federal bureaucracy that's going to battle disinformation, because disinformation is dangerous. Free speech is dangerous. There's only one truth, and it's the truth of those in power. And now that they have that power, oh, you can't question it. Have we all forgotten the, hey man, my free speech. I got free speech rights, man. Us hippies know. Those fucking hippies had kids. They now have grandkids. And they don't want anyone to have free speech, folks. Nobody. So let's see what you want to talk about. We're going to slip back, take a look at what topics you have in mind. It is the Friday free-for-all. It is now. This is your chance, folks. People will be watching all weekend long, whether it's a person, a place, a thing, a topic, a story, a conspiracy theory, whatever it is. Bring your questions to the game now, and we can discuss it. I've got a list a mile long. It is, in fact, a never-ending list of SHTF garbage. But it's not really garbage. I just got a message from Jolene. She says, I have the volume on low. I'm going to have a hard time keeping up. Okay. Oh, my gosh. Okay, Jolene, if I wave like this, that means we're looking for a topic. So let's do this. Let's get Vincent Boyle's comment back up on there. There we go. Yeah. Vincent Boyle from Belfast, Ireland checks in with us, and he says, Jolene, bread is up 50%, milk is up 50% locally, and it's only just started. It would be nice to know, Vincent, if you're talking about it's up 50% from the beginning of the year or year on year. But I think you're probably saying it's up 50% like the last time you really paid attention. This is how I'm looking at things. When I went to the store the other day and I looked at steaks and I said, hey, there's that steak there. And it was $15. And I thought, well, wait a minute. That's usually what, a prime rib or a ribeye or a porterhouse cost at that size, different size steak, different weights. It looked to me to be significantly higher. I don't buy a whole lot of steak, you know what I mean? And when I looked, I was really shocked. It'd been a long time and it was up, looked like triple. I really had a hard time believing it. This has only just started too. There's a report coming out of Brazil today, and Brazil is one of the world's major agricultural producing lands, growing crops. South America has quite a bit between Argentina and Brazil, livestock and food. We have Russia and Ukraine. We have the United States of America. There's a number of areas in the world that are just agricultural powerhouses. And the Brazilian farming corporation, if you will, very large farm there, said, look, we're gonna be having to cut our fertilizer, the amount of fertilizer we use, to an incredible degree because of availability and cost. So there's going to be more expense to farming. Less fertilizer means less produce, less, shall we say, yield per acre. That's going to cause a shortage. We've been talking about this, and we're going to continue to talk about this because I don't think people are taking it seriously enough. I don't think the news is playing it the way it needs to be discussed. They might be, folks, talking about inflation. They might be talking about inflation on mainstream news, your local news, but they're playing it off as transient inflation. They're playing it off as not a big deal. At the higher level today, Nancy Pelosi, that's right, 90 Proof Nancy, she came out, stood in front of the microphone, and as a, shall we say, speaker of lies, she played it off. No big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not Biden's fault. It's not an issue. Inflation's not an issue. Well, it is if you're having to, feed yourself and your family food, and that's all of us. Are you prepared? There's some other items I thought I would bring up that I think would be good to have in your preparations because of the expense that is going to be basically just heaped on our heads. Bread products. You just mentioned bread and milk. Okay, bread products. You can get Biscuit. You can get, what used to be Aunt Jemima, right? You can get all-purpose baking mix for making biscuits. You may not be able to make really delicious, high gluten, super elastic, stretchy, foamy, tasty bread, but you can make biscuits, right? Getting Biscuit, Crusties, Aunt Jemima Biscuit or Aunt Jemima biscuit mix. I think it's Pearl Milling Company now because heaven forbid we celebrate one of the most successful food business people ever, who's also happens to be a Black woman. Can't celebrate her with a picture of her on her own box. Nope. We got to woke them right out of business. So that's another recommendation, folks. An all-in-one biscuit mix. It's good for pancakes, biscuits, flapjacks, whatever you want to call them, waffles. It's a bread product. It's inexpensive. It stores very, very well over long periods of time. And if times get tight and times get tough, I think you will really, really will appreciate having that. I have enough of it, I think, to keep me happy and satisfied. I'm not a big carb eater. I'm trying to get rid of the carbs because of, fat. I'm still trying to get in better shape, but still, when times get tough and you need food, that's it. Thank you very much, Vincent. As far as milk goes, thank God cows aren't birds. The amount of chickens that are being slaughtered around the world, folks, and especially in America. I'm just wondering what testing methods they use on these birds. Is it the same testing methods they used on humans for cerveza bug that proved to be absolute bullshit, designed and intended to create a scare and a consequential lockdown? I just have a feeling, folks. I have a feeling that this is contrived bullshit. Right? Why all of a sudden, across the board, are we having an impact in our food supply stream, our food supply line, our goods supply line? When I really sit down and think about it, folks, I'll even put it on paper. I'll put the piece of paper in front of me and I'll write energy. And I'll put on there coal, oil, gas out of Russia, uranium ruined, right? Shutting down energy power plants worldwide, causing shortages, outages, rolling blackouts, all while increasing the cost. Food, we've just covered it. The rise in the price of meat, bread, goods, dairy, the fact that they're not planting more food this year, they're planting less instead of more. There's no fertilizer out there compared to the way it was. Railroads are saying no more. And speaking of other transportation, you've got ships parked offshore, waiting to be unloaded still, while over in Shanghai, they're refusing to load them. Everything I look at is screaming shortages and inflation. Unfreaking believable. You want to go a little further with that? I've got something specific, something that I think is going to get your attention. Americans, real Americans, want to go to work. They were building the Keystone Pipeline to bring reliable, inexpensive Canadian oil down into the United States of America for energy security. But it's time to bring on the stupid, right? Day one, Biden kills the Keystone Pipeline, kills hundreds of thousands of jobs and their families' incomes. Years and decades of work getting that pipeline established, signing contracts, getting suppliers, working on right of way to go through different lands. And they just killed it, folks. They killed it. Well, Biden will not allow the development and expansion of new projects. They remember when they said, well, there's plenty of existing projects out there. Well, to top it all, folks, now a company called Allianz, an insurance company, is now going to halt providing insurance for oil and gas projects in the United States of America in 2023, while we have an incredibly shitty outlook on energy. We have a worsening supply crisis because OPEC is saying no more oil. Russia is about to cut us off of oil. We're embargoing it. Bad Russia. Venezuela says, F you, we aren't sending you oil. And I've been watching for years, specifically Steve St. Angelo, talk about how fracking and a lot of our domestic production, which was increased in an effort to meet our energy needs, those wells run out very, very quick. So bring on the stupid, folks. Yes, while we Americans suffer under increased energy and fuel shortages and increased costs, which have only just begun to spike upwards, folks, the insurers of energy production have gone woke on us. Now, listen to what they say. Listen to what's more important to them, folks. Allianz said it was, quote, committed to actively driving the transition towards renewable energy sources, supported by significant underwriting and investment capacity and appetite for renewable risks. Renewable risks. They don't want to risk insuring petroleum, but they want to risk insuring a renewable risk, wind and solar. Here we go, folks. There's significant underwriting and investment capacity, meaning there's money out there, and if they don't allow it to go into oil, then it's got to find someplace. And maybe that appetite for finding energy will fall into the renewable risk category. Unbelievable. They are actively committed. In other words, they're an activist corporation, folks. They are now an ESG, environmental, social governance, BS company. With energy sources drying up, folks, does being a renewable woke-tard corporation sound like a good idea to you? Right? And folks, this wouldn't be a problem because, in a real economy, another insurance company would step up and ensure that when you turn the key, vroom, the engine starts. And when you flip the switch, click, the lights come on. What are we looking at, folks? We're looking at corporate America selling us out, pushing in a direction that we should go naturally. Cleaner energy, renewable energy, right? Environmentally good energy, but they're not happy with the evolution of the project, the evolution of progress. They're pushing it, they're driving it, they're starving us, they're going to hurt us and make us pay for this before we're even ready for it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when I read that and I had all those thoughts. Anyways, what do you want to talk about? Jolene, let's get one of your guys' comments up on the board. Oh, she can hear. She can hear me. Okay. I'm going to take a quick drink of this here inoculation. It's Cerveza Bug Extra. And I hope you're ready for a nice weekend. Be sure and take some hours off, some time off to unwind, to discharge, to let go. Sean Smith said, John, I donated blood today and I feel awesome. When the lady asked me if I had the Jim Jones juice yet, I said, no, ma'am, I'm a prepper and still have pure blood. I could see her smiling through her mask. Semper Fi. That's interesting. This entire topic, this topic of blood, of DNA, of humanity, it is going to grow over the years. And I've tried forecasting, I've tried analyzing the data and seeing where this is, not next month, not even next year, but let's look forward to 2040, an entire generation away from where we're at today. I can imagine a world where there's a significant number of people who are married to, or they themselves are Jim Jones juiced, and their children are juiced or the offspring of juiced people. And they're going to be genetically different than you and I. They're going to be different. Can you see the way these liberal scumbags think now? How they would think of us in another generation? We're outcasts. We're not good enough. We didn't buy the shit, right? While they're sick and coughing their guts out, having to run to the government every few days or hours to get injected with more shit, having to take pills and pop pills all the time to try and undo what's been done, they're going to think of themselves a bit differently. I can imagine our world, not with two political parties, but with two competing species of humans. Those who are free and free from manipulation, and those who are the living dead. That's my worst case scenario, right? Well, I mean, I can think of worse, but as far as what it's doing to people. Celine Dion what made it into the news cycle today. She's still having issues and problems. But don't worry, she's fully juicinated, fully boosted. Yeah, and still having problems. I'm continuing to hear from people who have problems. I'm continuing to not to want to have anything to do with anyone who has been hyper jabbed. In fact, a friend of mine who is just like me, never had the Jim Jones juice. He's in the market looking for a lady. And he's like, you can't believe it. You just put that you are unjuicinated in a dating site, and you get attacked for it. You can't even civilly tell someone else, hey, I'm unjuicinated. I'm looking for someone who's unjuicinated, without getting attacked. These online Karens are horrifying. And that's today, folks. Like I said, I'm not talking about today or next year. What happens in 20 years? Where are we going to be in 20 years? Will there be several states in the United States where everyone who hasn't gotten juicinated is required to go? You know, will they say, no, you guys can't be in the South. You've got to be up in Miami, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. Those are your 4 states. So get up there or we're going to kill you. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I can tell you is the people in charge are absolute biological idiots. And we demonstrate this daily, the decisions they make, the things they say, the things they continue to say, and the stupid decisions they continue to make. Well, I'm glad you donated some blood. I hope that it saves a life of someone who can benefit from it. I don't know anything about blood donation right now, whether they have 2 blood banks, one contaminated and one pure. I don't know. I have heard stories that there is. I've heard stories that that contaminated blood looks different. I've heard problems with it being used, as in it doesn't work right, you know, to varying degrees. It is rather disturbing, folks, to think that there's people running around or walking, since if they run, they might have a stroke or a heart attack, but they're walking around with blood that is failing them. Really, really, really unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. Now it's time for my topic. There are now 22 different countries that have dropped mask mandates. And experts are debating the consequences. The country of China is locking itself down to a degree, and against the wishes of their own people. They're beating their own people. They're chaining them in their own buildings, apparently. Is this true or is this not? Well, if it's true, it's horrifying. And if it's not, hey, welcome to more lies. But they're certainly not doing their job in China, which is producing goods. They're not producing the goods that corporations that went over there said they would. Those goods are not getting onto ships. They're not being sent to where they're wanted, and they're not being offloaded. They're not making it to stores. There's product shortages everywhere, folks. Now, 22 countries dropped mask mandates. The world has had it with this shit. It's bullshit, and we know it. You know it. I know it. We all know it. China's playing a game with the world, folks. That's really all this is. Every time I see someone in a mask now, you know, I scowl at them. I'm not saying anything. I'm not mean or rude, but I just look at them and shake my head at them. Are you that stupid? And the answer is, yeah, they are, folks. I've seen people in the middle of nowhere, not a soul near them wearing a freaking mask. You know, it's just, that's, you can tell. It's like an IQ test. A mask does not stop viruses and even bacteria from getting into your lungs through the mask any more than a shopping cart will hold sand. It just doesn't happen. The consequences, folks, of continuing this mask mandate nonsense, now that's an incredible problem and incredible risk. I've read the stories about the social and psychological development issues with children who have had their parents wearing masks for months and months, that those children don't understand. They don't see a face and recognize what the emotions mean. They're socially undeveloped. Does that mean they can't catch up and can't be normal? No. But there is an effect. Experts debate the consequences. I'll tell you what, the experts should have debated the consequences and the science beforehand. So good for those 22 countries. All right. And folks, by the way, I got some great shit coming up. So get your questions up, and then I want to get to my stuff. Jolene, where are we at? Where are we at? Oh, there we are. Booman checks in and says, saw some people saying, when the Republicans take back control, they'll get rid of the Ministry of Truth. I asked, when was the last time we got rid of any government position or department, meaning bureaucracy? And Uman gives us 1, 2, 3 exclamation points. Never. Right. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., it appears every street has buildings and every single freaking building is bureaucracy. It's federal government power with people working behind desks and screwing with people's lives, and they never, ever go away. The IRS? Nope. The FBI? Nope. The CIA? No. How about the EPA? Everyone thought the Environmental Protection Agency would go away. Nope, sorry. Everything, folks. FEMA, there it is. Department of Homeland Security, what? The NSA, we need another one of those? They don't go away. They just don't. Thank you, Uman. That is a great point. I would think that someone who's an outsider with an even more powerful sense of doing shit right could fix that. We all had a great deal of hope in President Trump being that guy who was fond and famous for saying, you're fired. He should have fired bureaucrats, shut down institutions, and if Biden can get rid of a Keystone Pipeline project, right? A multi-billion, multi-decade project with the stroke of a single pen, why couldn't Trump have done and gotten rid of a bunch of shit? Now, Elon Musk, on the other hand, perhaps he's a South African. He wasn't born here, so he's disqualified. Never, ever would I seriously suggest Elon Musk should be president because he does not qualify. But I bet he could be a great advisor, right? Because he's like, you know what? We're going to quit paying these people. You want to solve problems, right? This is why we started looking to private sector. Now, this topic, for example, was actually started in the 1970s. After the Nixon followed by Gerald Ford debacle, America said, we kind of want an outsider. We want an outsider for president. And they elected Jimmy Carter. A definite Washington, D.C. Beltway outsider, got nothing done, was a do-nothing president. Then we got Ronald Reagan, who did great things for American pride, Americanism, American nationalism, and revived America. But boy, did we went into debt doing it, and we've continued in that. But that's okay. That was going to happen regardless because of coming off the gold standard in 1971. Now, continuing with this idea, though, we ended up with Ross Perot. Ross Perot, we're going to hear a great sucking sound of companies leaving the United States. Another outsider, another businessman who had all kinds of solutions from the private sector. He never won. Instead, we ended up with Clinton. Then we ended up with Bush. And then we ended up with Obama. All legacy insiders and stooges. All the way until we got to Trump. Another outsider the country elected in the hopes that they would roll back red tape, roll back bureaucracy, roll back federal power. And Uman, you're right. Never. Every empire has its example of this very thing. The Roman Empire became so top-heavy. There was so much empire over the top of every taxpayer, every Roman citizen, that it could not support itself, to the point that the Caesar's regime, right, the military were so big that they ended up cannibalizing the Roman Empire, stealing wealth from each other, locking each other up in prisons, accusing each other of crimes so they could confiscate the wealth. of others. Folks, do you think America's doing that already? What is it? Who's been locked up lately? Paul Manafort. Who's been locked up lately? General Flynn. Who's been locked up lately? January 6th protesters. Who has had their wealth confiscated? Right? Civil asset forfeiture. When a government looks to its own body, the people, and says we need to survive by being parasitic. Taxes, folks, used to be 1%, 2% of a person's annual income. Where is it at today? As little as I make, folks, you would be disgusted at how much I pay. I'm sure the same is true for you. Thank you. Thank you, man. Feel good about that. Now, let's talk about more idiotic, stupid government. Shit hitting the fan, and it's going on right now, folks. The free-for-all is right now, and this is happening right now. Today, El Presidente Gigi Biden, his Secretary of State, the idiot Tony Blinken, said there is greater stability and peace. Is he talking about Ukraine and Russia? No, folks, he's talking about women in Afghanistan. They have greater stability and peace under the Taliban. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's not that I expect him or anyone or the military to do anything about it at this point. Biden surrendered for the whole world. He surrendered the whole world over to the Taliban. So to the Afghan women, I guess I'll say, being locked up in a hijab, slapped and beaten daily, that is better. That is more stable. That is more peaceful. Well, it's mostly peaceful slapping. I guess mostly peaceful raping, right? Is it more stable? Or is it more like living in a horse stable, right? Having your face muzzled like a horse is. Attention, cock-hating feminists. Why aren't you asking for Blinken's termination for saying something so stupid and callous? Cancel him now, feminists. Where are you? You bunch of hypocrites. Folks, they won't say a word. Feminists actually hate real women. They do. Don't worry about it. Now, this looks like a case for the new truth ministry of the old Biden administration to look into. Where is the singing Nina to tell us the truth here, right? Yeah, raping, beating, and publicly executing free women in the street. Yeah, that's stable. That does sound a lot like Democrats' idea of mostly peaceful life. Let's go, Brandon. Yeehaw. Incredible. They really think this stuff, folks. They really think it. Can you imagine that for your daughter or your mother? And then this jackass says that. Well, here's to you. Way to go, Blinken. Unbelievable. Okay, you guys got some more stuff you want to talk about? Jolene, are you there? There it is. Latin American preparedness checks in, and he says propaganda is very common during wartime. The governments involved in war have a narrative. Current Ukraine situation is a very good example. What will be the long-term situation with the Minister of Truth, the Ministry of Truth? I'll tell you what. The long-term situation is it will become pure propaganda. It will not only have the ability to tell us what we should think by giving us its sets of facts, it will also engage in the silencing of us through social media, through your jobs. Oh, there's good. I can see an education ministry, right, going into schools and saying, no, you can't teach that. You have to teach critical race theory. Now in Florida, they've got the opposite. You will not propagandize kids. You'll teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's what they're teaching them there. You will not bring in social engineering and social programming and lies. That is exactly what the Ministry of Truth, the disinformation gods, Remember, she's an expert. She was an internet expert on disinformation. You can be on the internet for one day. You, me, all of us, the entire population. In one day, you'll be an expert on disinformation because you'll see it, you'll find it, you'll agree with it, you'll disagree with it, but you'll know what it is. You will. The long-term situation, our jobs, our children, not only will you be silenced, but you will be punished. That's right. They'll come up, talk about new ways to call things a hate crime. This very conversation, folks, they would love to say is laced with hate and lies. Oh my God, that John guy, he's just oh my God, free speech is not a good thing. And they're totally ignoring the fact that the country and the world has existed on the notion with the benefits of free speech for hundreds of years. They won't admit it, folks. They will not admit it. Because now that they have the industry they want, the wealth they have, the homes, the power, the corporations, the military, now that the people in charge, the big dogs, have everything they want, it's time to take away all that you have, right? They don't want you to be able to get on a plane. They don't want you to be able to get on a cruise ship. They don't even want you to be able to get in your own damn car and go more than 100 miles. Get in your electric vehicle and be happy to have it. They want to track everything you do. They want to see every dollar you make and every dollar you spend. They want Alexa and Google and whoever else in your house spying on you. They want your own fucking appliances snitching on you. How many times did you open the door, right? I'm sure there's all kinds of information, folks, that they're gathering on us. They don't want you to be happy or free. That's what I want for myself and for you, because I can't say, look, I want to be free. I want to be happy. But to the rest of the people, no, you guys don't get to have that. It's for me and me only. What kind of sick son of a bitch has that thinking process? Think about it. These fuckers have all the money and power, and they want to tell you what you can and can't have. You think Bill Gates sits down with a bowl of soy milk and beetle grubs and pours a bowl full and has them like breakfast cereal every day? If not beetle grubs, how about locusts and grasshoppers? You think he sits down and eats a big old bowl of grasshopper cereal for breakfast? Do you think at night he sits down to a delicious, tender, synthetic, computer-generated pile of goo and shit shaped like a steak with some artificial food coloring that he sizzled up in a frying pan for himself? Or do you think that smug son of a bitch sits at his dinner table with a glass of fine aged Chianti and a filet mignon prepared by a chef, right, and served by his waiter staff, while his butler stands around waiting to kiss his ass if he needs anything else? Yeah, that's how he lives, folks. I'm sure of it. Unbelievable. Our country, folks, is funding violent, un-American regimes. The Taliban was given the country of Afghanistan. They were given $85 billion in military hardware, which could be used for military adventures, could be used for policing their own people or terrorizing their own people. They could be used for terrorism around the world. $85 billion worth. And now he wants to give $33 billion of U.S. taxpayer money to the Ukraine government. Another $33 billion, folks. How can he justify that? Ukraine is not American. It is not American-minded. It's not about freedom. Zelensky, if you speak against his government, you are arrested and thrown in prison, if not executed on the spot by his Azov battalion, military and secret police, who are Nazis with literal Nazi symbols on their uniform. These aren't American, folks. Our government, the US government, is funding anti-American, un-American regimes around the world. It is now naked. It is in our face. You can't say, well, it's to fight communism like they did with the Iran-Contra affair. We're arming the Nicaraguans against the Sandinistas, or the other way around, whatever the hell that one was. That's back in the 80s, folks. We don't have that issue anymore, right? It is incredible what's going on. Absolutely disgusting what is going on, right? Vladimir Putin said, don't move NATO into Ukraine. No more expansion of NATO, right? That was the deal that NATO struck with Putin. And then they did a coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014. Putin went in then, and they signed the Donbass Peace Accords saying, okay, we won't bring in NATO. That's what Voldemort Zelensky said. Okay, we won't kill ethnic Russians anymore. Atrocities ensued afterwards. So we now have this Ukraine fight, folks. We now have this Ukraine war, this Ukraine conflict. Right? And it's going from bad to worse for anyone who wants to fight this. Putin's strategy with Germany, it only gives Germany one choice, one option. It's going to get from bad to worse, right? Does Germany want to suffer now or suffer later? It wasn't Putin that caused this, folks. It was NATO. And every European country that has opposed it now supports it. There is no choice, folks. Countries are picking sides. In our country, we don't have a choice because the chief executive, the man who can't even finish a sentence, is in charge. And the Democrats run Congress. But our nation is divided, folks. It's going to be a free-for-all. They want to bring us under control. Those of us who want free speech, who will never surrender our Second Amendment, by the way. That is a given. You cannot. You give that up, you know you're dead the next day. We know it, folks. You are dead without free speech, just as you're dead without the Second Amendment. Right? Do we have any other topics we want to bring up, Jolene? Yes, we got do be kind. I didn't want to get into the Ukraine thing too much. I want to give you guys another chance. This is the Free for All Friday, and we're going to finish up. It is do be kind. Says, hey, Big John, if they ever do a forced shortage of booze, fries, and chips and biscuits, the streets will be full of angry people. Maybe. This is a risk government takes. Yeah, beer, booze, our drink, our smoke, our food. In the United States of America, they're going to make gasoline so expensive you can't afford to hardly go anywhere. They're going to make electricity so expensive you can't hardly afford to do anything. They're going to make everything so expensive via inflation that we're going to be slaves to the few things we can get. And I think they will keep beer and booze available, French fries and potato chips, biscuits and gravy, and none of those things in a literal scientific, medical, dietary, nutritious sense are any good for us. They're all poor substitutes for nutritional food. Yeah, in truth, in reality, this is not nutritional. But it is a panacea for a particularly short-term problem. You know, I've had enough for this week. That won't solve any problems, you know, a beer, but it'll help you relax and forget and chill out, right? Food, right? When you eat food and you start feeling good, it's not because you're digesting the food and you're getting energy from the food. No, it's dopamine, right? You feel better. You get your drink, you get your smoke, you get some snacks, you're good. How did they keep people under control when they locked down the country for 2 weeks? Just 2 weeks. Hey, you get free porn. Really? That was it? That's what you get? Free porn? Yippee freaking skip, right? They'll give us bread and circus while they take everything else away. Yeah, you will not be able to go to the Caribbean, but you might be able to go to your local lake. You see, during the shutdown, they shut down the beaches, the parks, the lakes. They shut down the Redneck Riviera, which stretches from what? Texas all the way around and up the coast to North Carolina even. I call that, it's one big Redneck Riviera. Anyways, they shut all that down. I don't think they'll do that necessarily again, because those areas are controlled by free states. We're going to have some serious problems, in my opinion. They're not going to take away everything from Americans. We are the producers of so much in the area of food. Right? They know we're willing to put up with an enormous amount of shit now. You and I. They've tested it now, folks. They've tested us. How much crap will Americans put up with? What can the government say you have to do? How easy are we to scare? How simple-minded are we that we can be brainwashed and indoctrinated? How reliant are we upon the government and experts to tell us what to do and what to think and how to go about our lives? How easily we comply, folks, with their taxes. To push too far is going to what? It's going to invite conflict. So the government doesn't want conflict between us and them. Every smart overlord understands that their people that they want to control, it's best not to have your people blaming you for what has happened to them. It is best to make sure your people blame someone else. So Putin is destroying the world. No. Biden is fucking up the United States of America. Ukraine has nothing to do with America, folks. It has everything to do with European and American oligarchs making a shit pile of money plundering Ukraine. But we have inflation, which means our money is crap. We have a shortage of food, shortage of supplies, shortages of everything that we need. Shortages now. So people are just doing without. They're pissed. They're not happy. So what does Biden do? He blames someone else. Right? The United States government wants to blame Putin. The United States government, the state governments, want us fighting with each other. They're going to try and make you hate me. They're going to try and make you hate your fellow man in your neighborhood, your neighbor, your townsfolk. They want to turn us on each other. Right? If you're having a hard day, they want you to blame me for it. You're upset at the world, they want you to blame everyone that's around you, because that's the person that you can yell at and scream at. Do something. And if that person doesn't do exactly what you want, they're the problem, right? And you can get to them. You know, kind of like from time to time, people are pissed at me, and it's like, look, I'm just one guy. Develop a network and a push, prep to action, right? Prep to action. Get prepared and take action and yell at them, the government. They're the ones with the authority. They're the ones with the power. They're the ones who can fix these problems because they're the ones who have created these problems. Yet here we are. Literally, here we are. They are the problem. And we know it. Don't fall for their gimmicks. Don't fall for their games. Get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. You aren't the problem. I'm not the problem. They are the problem. Reach out to your senators, your congressmen at the state, at the national level, and tell them to don't even allow this disinformation governance bureaucracy to even be started. We don't need more censorship. We need more free speech. Free speech is not bad. Free speech is good. We should be able to talk about whatever the hell we want, whether it's these little fruitcakes and skinny jeans, right? Whether it's someone claiming that persons of color are superior, or if someone is white and says white people are superior. They don't know. You know, we should be able to discuss all of that without somebody, throwing a rock at your head. We should be able to discuss things civilized. And if you're going to have the conversation and you want to join in, you should have good arguments. good discussion points. But we're past that now. They've weaponized speech, so much so that the leftists will violently attack you. Burn, loot, and murder, BLM types, Antifa types, they've demonstrated that. We've got that coming too, folks. You think it's hard now, you think things are tight now. Wait until this summer. The elections are coming. I barely talked about it the last few days, but the elections are coming. And the consequences, folks. There's always consequences. But for now, chance favors the prepared mind. Take a day off. We'll be back Sunday for Sunday Night Live. That'll be 6 p.m., folks, Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. Last week, we went for almost 5 freaking hours. Woo! I'd be shocked if we went that long again, but it could happen. It really could happen. And take a day off. Spend some time with family. Recover some energy, some brain power, and think about what it is to be alive, to be American, to be happy. And then think about what they're telling us our lives should be about. And I bet you're going to see that those are two entirely different things. I choose happiness and freedom and liberty, folks. I choose to be a prepper also, because chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you are a prepper? Go to thepreparedmind.club. Get what you need to be prepared, folks. Semper Fi. Godspeed.